Last summer, I tried to fix a loose fence post in my backyard. I didn't own a post hole digger, so I figured my kitchen spoon would do the trick. I knelt down into the dirt, prying and scooping like a determined raccoon, and after an hour I had managed to move maybe 2 spoonfuls of soil. My neighbor walked over, silently watched for a while, and then disappeared into his garage and returned with the exact tool I needed. 10 minutes later, the post was secure. Fictional story, of course, but that's what it's like when writers expect a copy editor or any other kind of editor to fix their plot. Different jobs, different tools. So why do so many writers treat all editors like the same multitasking unicorn? Because nobody's really explained the editorial food change and how they could use it until right now. I've worked with hundreds of writers and editors across self, indie, and traditional publishing lines. I know the process from manuscript meltdown to bookstore shelf, and I've seen how clarity about editorial roles transforms stress into strategy. An editor should be your collaborator, not your adversary. In this video, I'm breaking down 4 major types of editors: acquisition, developmental, line, and copy editors. I'm talking about real-world editing with an example for each one. You'll walk away knowing exactly who does what. Plus, we'll finally put to rest that weird myth that proofreading is editing. That's coming up right now. Knowing the real roles of different editors helps writers navigate publishing like pros. Knowing will save you time, frustration, and money too. Let's look first at acquisition editors. Acquisition editors are the literary bouncers of publishing. Understanding an acquisition editor's job helps writers focus on market fit, not just artistic vision. I mostly aim at self and indie publishers, as you know. Acquisition editors serve the traditional publishing industry. They are the gatekeepers for that traditional industry. But I'm calling attention to acquisition editors first here because the sales staff of vanity and hybrid companies often mask themselves as acquisition editors. So it's important to know what acquisition editors do. Writers often think they just need to write a great book and the doors to publishing will swing wide open. But someone has to want to let you in, and letting you in must be profitable for the traditional publishing company. And who is that someone? Well, it's the acquisition editor. They typically have a staff of interns or others sift through what's known as the slush pile. If one of these readers like a manuscript and recommend it to the acquisition editor, your book has a chance. The best way to bypass the slush pile is to have an agent whom the acquisition editor trusts. Anyway, if the acquisition editor likes the manuscript, he or she will bump it up to the publishing committee and they will make the decision whether or not to publish the book. Here's what an acquisition editor does. Their focus is on market viability. Acquisition editors hunt for books that not only read well, but sell well. They read pitches and proposals, evaluate manuscripts, argue for projects in acquisitions meetings, and decide where to invest the publisher's money. Their goal is to say yes to books that match the publisher's list, brand, and audience, and that justify the advance. For example, an acquisition editor at a romance imprint might reject your post-apocalyptic vampire memoir, no matter how brilliant it is, because it's not what they buy. How is someone at a vanity or hybrid publisher different? Well, they call themselves acquisition editors, but since they're really in sales, they accept all books because you pay. Now, let's do a reset here. As a self or indie author, acquisition editors don't really concern you. Here are the types of editors that are crucial to you. Knowing what developmental editors do saves writers from expecting them to fix spelling or grammar. They've got bigger fish to fry. For example, you know something's wrong with your book, but you can't put your finger on it. In fact, you may even be blind to some of the things that are in your own book. You might be tempted to tweak a few things, but it doesn't help. If your story structure is shaky, no amount of copy polish will save it. And that's where a developmental editor comes in. You need developmental editing while your book is a work in progress. I recommend that you send it to an experienced developmental editor after you have a solid first draft. By the way, I did copy editing for decades, but now I specialize only in developmental editing. Why? Because it's the key juncture where I can help a writer create a truly outstanding fiction or nonfiction book. So, what is the key role of a developmental editor? Well, they focus on the big picture story and the structure, plot arcs, pacing, character development, tension, theme. This is their terrain. Their tasks including giving manuscript critiques, suggesting cuts, reordering, expansions, or even rewrites. They help you figure out what your book is really about. The goal is to shape a compelling, coherent book that works as a whole. Think infrastructure, not just the building architecture. For example, a developmental editor might tell you to cut the first 10 pages or to change the ending because as is, your story doesn't deliver on its promise. Have you used a developmental editor? What one piece of developmental feedback changed your book dramatically? Share with us all in the comments. But once the bones are set, what about the way the story feels line by line? Well, let's zoom in on the type of editing your manuscript needs after you have completed your final draft. That's called line editing. Line editors are stylistic surgeons with story scalpel skills. Your plot's intact, but something is still off. The scenes feel clunky, the dialogue doesn't sing. It's not broken, but it's not working. And that's where the line editing comes in. The focus is on the way language delivers the story. It's about rhythm, tone, pacing, and clarity line by line. The tasks of a line editor include tweaking sentence structure, reordering clauses, pruning excess, smoothing transitions, that's a big one, and point out where tone breaks or voice drops. Their goal is to help you make each sentence earn its space and move the reader emotionally and intellectually through the book. For example, a line editor might recast a sentence like this. She was walking quickly down the hall in a state of alarm, and change it to, she bolted down the hall. See the difference? So what about grammar, spelling, and punctuation? Isn't that editing too? Sure, but that's copy editing. Some professionals think line and copy editing can be done by one person. Well, I agree with that. A good copy editor is probably at their best when they have the freedom to do both. But let's clarify how copy editing differs from line editing. Copy editors are the guardians of grammar and consistency. Understanding copy editing helps writers clean up the final product but not expect deeper story level feedback. That's why copy editors get the final draft. You've probably been told your book just needs a copy edit. But if your main character disappears for 6 chapters or your climax happens off screen, copy editing won't save you. The focus of copy editing is accuracy, grammar, mechanics, style consistency. They are rule followers and the best way. They are the ones who know when it's okay to break the rules for artistic purposes. Their tasks, well, they include fixing typos, grammar glitches, continuity slip-ups, and enforcing style guides like, the Chicago Manual of Style or a house style. Their goal is a clean, readable manuscript that doesn't confuse, distract, or annoy readers or break publishing conventions. For example, a copy editor might catch that your hero's eyes change color mid-book, or that you keep switching between toward and towards. And no, it's not more editing, it's proofreading. Proofreading isn't editing, it's quality control. Knowing that proofreading checks proofs helps writers stop expecting proofreaders to fix narrative or grammar issues. Proofreaders are not the editor who edits the editor. They are not the ones who give your manuscript a final once-over. I know there are people who claim they are an editor proofreader. I say run from such people. It's a social media hustle. Genuine professionals know the difference and don't claim to do both. If you think proofreading is some kind of last-ditch editing, then at least be consistent. Next time you go to a Michelin-rated restaurant, have the dishwasher go to the kitchen and prepare your meal. He sees what's left on plates, so he must know more about fine dining meal preparation than the chef, right? Same principle applies to proofreaders. Proofreading gets tossed around like a synonym for editing, but in publishing, it means something different and very specific. First, know what a proof is. After the book manuscript pages are designed and typeset, a mock-up is created so that you can see exactly what the printed book will look like. In the old days, we called them blue lines. You could print out the pages of your final composed book today if you wished, one page to a sheet, same as a blue line. But better yet, places like Amazon offer a proof copy you can order before you click the button to actually publish your book. That replaces the blue line. So the focus of a proofreader is to look at the designed typeset pages of your book, the proof, not the Word doc, not the Google doc. Their task is to check page numbers, headings, spacing, hyphenation, and last-minute text errors that crept in during layout. It's detail overhauling, not story refining. Their goal is a clean, professional final document with zero embarrassing glitches. For example, a proofreader might notice that Chapter 17 is labeled Chapter 19, or that a caption slipped out of alignment. But no, proofreading is not a final edit. If a proofreader sees something outside the scope of their work, they report it to the editor. That's why they should get proofs, not manuscripts, so they don't do damage by thinking they're editors. Understanding editorial roles isn't just trivia, it's triage. Hire the wrong editor and you're throwing darts in the dark. An editor should be your collaborator, not your adversary. Hire the right one, and your book becomes what you meant it to be. Have a great writing day.